Hey there, Rumble. Welcome on back to Mellacore. I'm your host, Rob. And in this video, we're going to get into, you guessed it, we're going to jump back into the player's manual. And we're going to go to the solo adventure, the one that they set up, read the part 3 into the caves. Set it up on a 3D map and play through it and see how it happens. Couple of reasons for this, reason why I'm doing it and why I'm starting my channel out this way. The very first one, well, I haven't played this in a while. It's been a long time, and I decided I want to get back to the basics. I wanted to go back to where it all started for me personally, and my path down the solo, I'm gonna say solitaire enthusiasts, however you want to look at it with RPG gaming. I know for many, this whole entire concept is alien to them, but trust me, it's really not. And as a matter of fact, if you go further back into the timeline of D&D, and you go back to the original AD&D Player's Handbook or DM's Guide, I would have to get clarification on that because I can't remember at this point, but there is a heading in there from Gary Gygax himself, giving you matrices and explaining that the game can be played this way. The mechanics and matrices and everything don't change. The only thing that does is you just don't have the social atmosphere to it of experiencing it with a group of people. But for me, this isn't an issue for many reasons. To give you just a quick, brief overview, when I started playing these games, well, it was hard to find people who wanted to play because at that time it was a satanic panic and nobody wanted to be, associated with it. And then as I got older and more editions came out and I was still buying books and playing these things solitaire, yes, I had many invites to game groups and to play, but working afternoons, well, I was working when they were gaming, and, well, that didn't work out for me very well either. So it just reinforced my, I'm going to say, love for solitaire gaming, and I just moved forward with it from there. But whether you're watching this, and I imagine there's many different reasons, whether it's nostalgia, whether it's, you're interested in solitaire gaming, you don't know where to start, or perhaps you've never seen basic D&D, you don't know what it's about. The only thing that you know is what you've heard spread around the internet from different sources and or I'm going to say, I'm not going to mention the word of this corporation, but who is currently really trying to push their latest edition, going into their newest one, which is going to be an all-electronic platform. I guess you can probably figure out who that is, and it makes sense as to why they would want to try to bury the older editions. But I have to tell you, for many of us, this is where it all started. So in the next hour, let's get to the game table. Let's take a look at this and play through it, see how far we can get through it, and just see from its inception how great of a game this was, why it has sparked just so many different genres of RPG games, and why it has such a huge following still to today, and why it is still widely played and loved despite the fact that we're living in a time of advanced electronics and screens and games with basically graphic rendering that is just out of this world, but yet people still want to go back to the table. They would rather rely on their imaginations and 3D prompts for the fact that they have the freedom to be able to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And well, they're not held captive by subscription season passes or, advancement packs that they have to pay for. They already own the book. They know they just have to put in the legwork in order to get the game off the ground and going. And as we move forward on this channel, I'm going to explain more tips and tricks, tutorials, and talks about solitaire RPG gaming. But if you're not aware, I do have another channel on YouTube you can check out called Artichoke Dip. And I've been there for a while, and I am just trying to branch out. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to spread the word about solitaire RPG gaming, but more so actually demonstrating RPG gaming rather than just talking about RPG gaming. Because let's face it, anybody can be an armchair, theorist about solitaire RPG gaming, but it's time to put the money where the mouth is. It's time to demonstrate how you do RPG gaming in the way that I do RPG gaming. This sounds interesting to you and you want more? Stick around, folks. And don't forget, click the like, or you can always subscribe to the channel, and then that way, when a new video is uploaded, you're going to get a notification. Because balancing two channels right now, I have a lot of content to put out. There's a lot of editing that goes into it, which in turn takes a lot of time. But it's Friday, and that means it's gaming day. All right, my friends, let's jump on over to the table and let's get this thing started. Okay, so here we are. I have the first room that I'm gonna have set up for the solo adventure to represent the entry map right here. As you can see, this is a statue. I have that represented here. Let me get this camera angled a little bit better so we can see. And of course, I have these right here, which represent the doorways for the 3 areas that could be possibly led out of this room area. Now, my characters that I'm going to run, the first one is Crowley the Veteran, which is a dwarf fighter, if you will, which would be represented by this mini right here. The second one that I have will be Caleb the Veteran, and it's an elf, which will be represented by this figure right here. And of course, I decided to choose the one spell that I could use as invisibility. Of all the spells, I figured for my first level spell, that's the best, because it would really give me an advantage in the game. Now, I had decided to utilize in the book with your character attribute, and of course Crowley the Dwarf having the highest charisma score, I could retain retainers, and I utilized that to the best of my ability. And what I have done is using the sample characters that they give you in the book, and I'm going to flip to those right here so I can show you. So they do give you sample characters in the book right here to go off of, and I decided to utilize Thief, which will be represented by this. And of course, I'm going to use base markers so we will know that these are basically my NPCs or my henchmen, but they will be in reserve, so they will not be on the map until I need them. And of course, I have a cleric as well that's going to have the ability to do healing, which is going to be very important. So those two will be along for the ride, but only as I need them. Okay, let's get started with this, and let's jump into the solitaire adventure. Now, this goes off the premise that you have already played through the introductory and you're already familiar with it. You have returned to town and now you're returning back. We're going to jump over that. I'm going to take this in my own direction. the way I want to do it. I'm going to say my two characters, Caleb the veteran and Crowley the veteran, have overheard the conversation in town and decided to go check out these cave systems themselves and see if they can find any treasure or anything far interesting like that. So, the caves are dark and dreary, as you remember from the last time. So you get out your lantern and light the wick using the tinderbox. Then carefully you step into the first room. So let's go to my character sheets. Let's see who has what. So yes, the elf has a lantern. So the elf will be leading the way. And the elf, if you remember, everybody has a movement of 40. So as he enters the area, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, I'm going to say he gets to the edge of here and is peering around. The dwarf, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, quickly follows up behind him. So let's see what's in this room. The room you are in is 50 feet square with a 10-foot wide exits in the middle of the north, south, and east, represented here. Boom, boom, boom. The ceiling of the room is 15 feet up, but the corridors are only 10 feet tall. The walls, floors, and ceiling are made of rough rock. There are some cracks and crevices in the rock walls, all very small. Standing in the exact center of the room is a stone statue, which you see here, of a woman in armor. You examine it carefully and finally even touch it. So let's put our characters up here to represent this as they are examining the statue. But it is merely a statue, nothing magical or special. You have entered this 50-foot square room by the southern corridor, which leads out to fresh air and sunlight. The other corridors are dark. The light from your lamp helps, but shadows linger in the corners of this large room. Do you want to, boom, first option we have, stop and listen, search the room, or go down the corridor? Well, I can say for me, I think probably the best course of action, since I'm already in this area, would be to search the area I am currently in, rather than venturing off. Okay, so 57. You search the room carefully, and you find a small scrap of paper in a niche or small hole in one wall. So, I have to resolve this. Who is going to be the one that finds this? My dwarf or my elf? Let's roll a d6. I'm going to say 1 through 3 will be the dwarf. 4 through 6 will be the elf. The dwarf. I'm going to say as they're over here in this area, like so, with the elf behind him holding up the torch for light. So you find a small hole in one wall. Opening it, you discover a note written in common tongue. Rats, east. Goblins, north. Beware, west. So I think it's at this time I should get a piece of paper and write this down as a clue, so I have a good idea of what we're dealing with here. Oh. I'm just gonna jot this down real quick. Clues. Rats, east. Goblins, north. And then beware, west. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this little sheet of paper with the clues. I'm going to say right here for myself. I know you can't see it on camera. I have it right here where I wrote it down. And I'm going to set it right here as a reference. Okay, so let's, which direction do I want to go? Well, we know rats east, beware of the west, goblins north. Well, I could go straight head on into combat and just start seeing how many goblins I can slay. But at this point, since these are low-level characters, I'm thinking perhaps rats would be my better option to do this. So now at this point, I gotta pull some minis out. I have to get some miniatures ready for the game board. And that should be pretty simple and straightforward to do. Unless you're like me and you have a shitload of miniatures to go through. Okay, so my characters are gonna, after looking over this, they decide, let's go towards the area with the rats. Maybe out of the false sense of security that it may be safer, and we don't know. So anyways, let's head that direction. So I put the doors in to represent just the areas leading out of this room. Well, really, it doesn't mention anything about doors. These are just open corridors, if you will. So now I got to put a corridor out. And we'll just recycle this one right here. Move my notes over there. All right, so the elf gets to the edge of the room where the corridor is. I'm going to say the lantern's lighting up this area. Now, let's go into, or I should say, down this corridor area. Entry 57. So it's telling me to look at the entry 57 map, which is right here, which we can see I have that represented right here, obviously. I can move the camera a little bit so we can get a better view. There we go. So we want to go east. In doing so, I have to go to entry number 79. So it says, if you have already been through this part of the dungeon, read 76. Well, we have not. Otherwise, continue. The corridor goes 50 feet east and opens into another room. What are you expecting here and why? You may have found 1 or 2 clues. If you haven't found or heard any clues, read 11. If you have only found a note that mentioned creatures, read 44. And if you have only heard creature sounds, read 71. If you did both, heard noise and found a note, read 59. Okay, so at this point, let's answer this question of, do we hear any noises? And I'm going to have to go back to the D20 to be able to answer this question. So first things first, where do I set my difficulty class rating and who's going to make the check? Well, let me see. Looking back at my characters, by far, Crowley the Veteran, or the Dwarf, has an attribute modifier of a +1 for his wisdom. Caleb the Veteran has a attribute modifier of +1 for his intelligence. I think I'm going to use him. Now, how I deal with difficulty class ratings, if you will, is, excuse me, is I will roll a D4, D6, or D10, depending on how difficult I want that to be. Now, in this situation, I'm going to roll a D6, and let's see where the D6 gets me. I have a 2, so adding 10 to that, I have a difficulty class rating of 12. So I'm going to see if my elf, in fact, hears anything or not. Let's see. Let's roll that D20, adding a +1 to it. 7, 8. Okay, as he listens quietly and carefully, he does not hear anything. So that'll answer that question. And of course, they can start their way down the corridor. And looking at the heading in here, so if you haven't found or heard any clues, read 11. If you've only found a note that mentions creatures, read 44. So let's head to 44 and see what 44 has to offer. And this is completely different how I would do my solo RPGs, but still, it's been a while. This is interesting. As you approach a room, a giant rat jumps out of the shadows and bites you. You see 2 more giant rats in the room. Okay, so let's set this up. And this should be fairly easy to do. I'm just going to remove my mini pieces like that and say they are approaching this room like so. I'm just going to move these out of the way for right now so I can stop adjusting stuff. So, as my elf draws closer to this area, it is at that point that a giant rat emerges, jumping towards him, followed by another rat behind him. So, reading that, as you approach a room, a giant rat jumps out of the shadows and bites you. You see 2 more giant rats in the room. So 2 more. So I have to add another giant rat. Like so. Take 2 points of damage and read 83. Ugh. Okay. So I'm currently at 8 HP. Well, this is going to take me down to 6. It's not a way I want to start my game out. But hey, this is D&D after all. Let's flip over to 83. You are having a battle with giant rats. 3 of them are here. Unless you scare one off, the area looks like entry 83 from the map. So now it's giving me a better shot of what I have to build here. Okay, so this should not be too bad. We can make some quick adjustments. So let's move this like so. Put the giant rat here. And I can always do something like that. Okay, I think that pretty much really accurately maps it out for what I need. We'll just put our walls in like so. Or maybe not. this one down here. Yeah, that's better. Even though you can't see it off camera, I can just show you what I'm doing here. All right. So let's jump on into the battle. So first things first, it already gives me the breakdowns for the giant rats. They have, they got 1d3. Okay, so this is going off the premise that I am using the pre-generated character. So we're gonna have to go to the Dungeon Master's Guide and pull up the information for giant rats. Here we go. We got the information right here for the giant rats. So they have an AC of 7. Their hit dice are halved, 1 through 4 HP. And then of course we have our other information that we're going to need to know, whether they're swimming, their attacks are 1 bite each. The damage does 1 through 3 plus disease. Ooh, well, that doesn't sound too pleasant now, does it? The morale is 3 through 18. The morale save is normal min. The treasure type is an 8. Their alignment is chaotic, and of course their XP. I'm sorry, I am reading this wrong. I am so sorry. Their alignment is neutral. They don't really offer any XP value. Okay, so now it's time to get into the matrices. If you're not familiar with that, the matrices are the monster hit die. So to make this simpler for myself, is I'm just going to write down the AC that they have is a 7 for a giant rat. I'll just put that down there as a quick reference for me off camera, so I don't have to go hunting for that later on. And then of course I got my matrices right here. So first things first, the rats obviously got the surprise round on us. They have attacked. Now it is our turn. And I'm just going to be utilizing my 2 characters right now. Unless I need to bring my henchmen into it, I will. But I'm going to keep them in reserve because I don't want to deplete them, because they're necessary, I'm going to say resources I may need for my characters may come into play later on. So right now, I have Caleb the elf, and what I have available to him is he does have a sword that he can utilize in one hand, and he's got the torch in the other. So, looking at the matrix, the monster's AC is a 7. And he has up to 1 HD, which is going to put that at a 12. So I'm going to have to roll a 12 or better in order to land a successful hit onto him. So let's see how this is going to work out. Okay. Adding my strength bonus to Caleb's attack here, he gets a +2, so 12 or better. Ooh, rolled a 13, so don't even technically need to utilize that bonus. Now I'm going to go straight to damage resolution, which is going to be a 1d8 +2. That's a 7, 8, 9. So looking at what I have in front of me for the rat's HP value, they had a 1 through 4 for even the giant rat. So we'll say at the high end they have 4 HP. At that point, Caleb comes in, the sword just cutting right through the rat as it shrieks out into pain. All right, so we're going to remove the rat and get him out of there. Next one is my dwarf, Crowley. he's going to move up, and he has a sword also, and he's going to enter into the combat. So 5, 10. And let's see how this goes. So he's going to get a +2 to his combat roll as well. Okay, he rolls a 12 plus his 2. It's all he needs. We're going to go to damage resolution. Okay, he rolls a 4, adding the 2 strength bonus, which really he doesn't need to. He has more than enough damage to completely destroy this rat as well. So before we get into initiative phase, which the initiative is going to be rolling to see who goes first into the combat round and how to determine that. And typically this can be done several different ways if you're playing solitaire, however you want to do this. You can use a deck of playing cards. You can do a lot of different ways with this. For me personally, I'm just going to use dice. I'm going to use 2d6 dice. I'm going to roll those, adding any bonuses from dexterity to it, and the highest number wins and acts first in the next combat round. The lowest number obviously goes last. But first things first, let's look at the giant rat. Let's look at its morale and see if the giant rat is going to stick around or if it's going to flee. And let's get back to that section, and here we are. Giant rat, it's morale, that's right, normal men for their morale. So I'm just gonna have to find human right here. Let's see what the humans. Okay. Come on, guys, give me some information on this. We know what a human is. We want to know what the morale. All right, I'm just going to move on with this. I'm going to say humans' morale is going to be an 8. Or, you know what? Let's go a little bit more than that. I think it's a little bit on the low side. Let's say it's a 12. We'll say the human morale will be a 12. I'm going to roll 2d6. And let's see if the rat sticks around or if it skedaddles. Okay, rolled an 8. It didn't come anywhere near its morale rating. So at this point, it's going to begin to flee. So let's go into resolving the initiative and rolling 2d10. I'm going to use the green one for the rat and then this color representing my characters. Let's see who goes first. Okay, a 9. Clearly my characters. So as the rat begins to turn to flee, Caleb, nope, that's my elf, Crowley, is going to move in, and he's going to get a free attack before the sucker has an opportunity to go. Let's see how this is going to go. He's going to go +2. He's got to have a 12 or better. Okay, rolling a 17. He doesn't even need his bonuses. Let's go straight to damage resolution. 3 + 2 is a 5. So as the rat turns to scurry away, he just comes in, swinging his sword and taking the rat completely out. All right. Right on. Now, I have one thing I have to resolve. And that is the question of a saving throw for Caleb. Caleb was attacked and took damage from the rat. Is Caleb gonna suffer any disease as a result of that? Well, looking at my saving throws, I got poison, death, magic wand, turn to stone of paralysis, dragon's breath, spells, magic staff. Well, how could I answer this question with disease as far as a saving throw? Or let's see how they suggest that we resolve this. And well, let me see. I'm not seeing anything underneath the heading for the giant rat for disease, other than it can have disease. So, this is a solo game. How do I want to resolve this? Well, what if we were to go underneath poison? And using the poison, I would have to have a 12 or better to be able to meet my saving throw for resistance of disease. And we'll say if he is diseased, at that point, every round he's going to lose 1 HP until he can locate some healing. Luckily, I have a cleric in my henchman, in my reserve, that I can utilize for that. But first things first, let's roll the saving throw and see how he fares. So I'm going to have a 12 or better. And, okay, I rolled a 3. Caleb notices that he has this horrible wound on his leg, and it's becoming very painful. He's going to take another point of damage as a result of that, which is going to reduce his HP to 5. But now that that's resolved, I have to answer another question. What exactly is in this room? Because we have defeated the giant rats, but we have yet to actually explore the room. And if I look in the heading for 83, you're having a battle with giant rats. 3 of them are here. Unless you scared one off, the area looks like entry 83 map. Okay, so we've already resolved that. It's given us all the information we needed. And it says run the battle normally using the combat checklist to be sure that you are doing it correctly. If you don't remember, and it explains to you, hey, this is how a battle is done, and it helps. It was what was there to address initiative before initiative was a thing. But playing solitaire, I like to use initiative because it just takes all of that out of there. That meaning missile, magic, melee, if you remember correctly. But considering we're both using melee, well, it just, basically, I think the way I did it made a lot more sense, moved along quicker. So it says, all the rats will fight until dead. If you decide to run away, one rat will bite you as you turn to run. Well, we don't have to worry about that. Roll for damage. But then, if you are still alive, you can go back to the same room. If so, read 58. If you killed all the rats, read 78. Well, we have killed all the rats. So let's go to heading 78. You have won the battle with giant rats. Searching the room, you find 100 copper pieces and 100 silver pieces scattered in the messy rat's lair. And you put them in the sacks that you are carrying. Now, what do you want to do? Okay, well, first thing is, let's record that treasure on my character sheet. So, being the dwarf, he's going to carry the coin. So, we have found 100 copper and 100 silver pieces. So, I'm just going to write my note here. Good old Dio, man. Dio and Dungeons and Dragons, man. So there we go. I have it recorded on my sheet. Now we can move on. So my characters have returned to the main area. And let's set that back up. Which will be represented here. Okay, so we got two doorways that are left on search. The one to the north, and of course the one to the west. And we have the statue room here, where I have returned. I think at this point, it would probably be a good time to call in my cleric and have my cleric perform healing wounds on my elf. So let's reconcile that. Oh, 1 + 1, 2 HP. Well, I'll take the 2 HP, which will take him back up to 7, but not full health of 8. But in doing so, I'm going to have him roll another save on the poison. I'm just going to have 12 or better to see if the healing has helped with the disease or not. Let's see. A 19. Okay. So the divine healing properties have not only helped heal some wounds, but it has also stopped the effects of the disease in its tracks as well. Okay, so here we are, back here. But I ask you this question: which way should we go from here? Would you go north or would you go west? Well, I don't think that's an exactly fair question for me to answer just solely upon myself, even though this is solo gaming. Maybe you could help me answer this question. Which way would you take? Let me know. Leave me a comment below and we'll tally them up and we will take it from there. All right, my friends, until the next gaming video, this is Melakor. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope you have enjoyed going through the first part of this dungeon. And with that being said, game on, my friends. And if you enjoy gaming content, I'll leave a link below. Check out my other channel, Artichoke Dip. You may find some things there that you may find interesting and or useful for your solitaire games. With that being said, game on, my friends. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you made it here to the end, I appreciate it a lot. And if you like gaming like I do, and this is a great piece of nostalgia, wasn't it? And I'm excited to move forward, but I'm a solitaire gamer. I have a lot of other games, and like I said, tonight's my game night. I'm going to be getting into an entirely different game system and continuing on there. But I figured with this one, I wanted to share it with you guys. So that's why I am going to do just this. I'm going to tally up all the votes. Let's see, which way would you go? Would you go to north, where it says there's goblins? Or would you go west, where it says beware? Well, It'd be very interesting to find out, but I don't want to answer this all on myself. I want input from you guys. I want to see what you would do. If this was your solitaire board game, which way would you want to go? Now, this may sound like, wait a minute, Melanchor, where are you going with this? Well, where I'm going is I'm trying to, like I said, reach out there. If you have some old RPG books sitting on your shelf because you can't find a game group, or maybe you want to play it and it's just been a while, maybe you've been out of practice and you might feel, how do I put this, skittish, afraid that maybe you're not up completely on all the rules and you don't know where you would fit in. Well, solitaire gaming is a good way to get started. It's a good way to jump back in, and it's a good way to get back into gaming, because, you know, this is my passion. It is my hobby. I have enjoyed this ever since I've been a kid, and I still do 38 years later. There's a lot to be said about that. And if you're like me, you have a huge imagination. You just love using your imagination. You love creating stories, and you love sitting down thinking about different scenarios that you could create and run characters through. And I'm going to use this as an example of, you're a DM. You want to create that adventure for your characters, but maybe you have found at times that the game is not exactly 100% balanced, or perhaps it does not really engage your players the way that you were hoping to. Solitaire gaming is a good tool for you, because what it does is it allows you to experience your idea and be able to look for them balances where they need to be balanced out. Maybe where an adventure hook needs to be added, or perhaps, maybe, just maybe, you might find you created something completely unto itself that you want to experience first, and kind of be like, yeah, I'm gonna run through this first. I'm gonna leave them out there for a little bit. I want to see what there is to be seen, and then after a few tweaks, I'm gonna share it with them. Solitaire is excellent for that too. There are many reasons for solitaire gaming, and what my goal, my purpose here, is to be able to shed all of those misconceptions, lies, and just overall ridiculousness we hear. You don't need 10 plus people around the table to enjoy an RPG game. As a matter of fact, if you understand the basics of the RPG, you understand some few basics or tools for solitaire RPG that can be applied, that can keep the game moving at a rate as to which you thoroughly enjoy and like, well, you're going to find a huge, wide open world available to you. Now, I have to say, the most important aspect to solitaire gaming is finding a game that really engages you, sparks your imagination, and you really do enjoy. It's going to move smoother for you, and more so than that, you're going to want to have more game sessions with it. Now, I tend to explain, the simpler the game system is, the far better it is for solo, because there's less going on, and it's easier to really emphasize more on story, plot hooks, and many other things that go into solo RPG, far more than what I could fit into this hour I want to limit this video to. And yeah, those videos will come at a later date, later time, more tutorials on solo and some of the tools we can use. But I guess the point I'm really trying to get across to you guys right now is finding a game system you really do enjoy, that you want to play. And depending on your playing style, I have to say, for me, I like my 3D representations, I like my 3D maps, minis, so on and so forth. to be able to utilize for that. And that's really what I enjoy about it and really draws me in. Other people, it could be vastly other different things, different aspects of the RPG hobby that does that for them. Now, when it comes to solo RPG, here's the one question I cannot answer. Only you can answer it for yourself, and you have to figure out what exactly is that. But with that being said, I can tell you one thing. If you're looking to get into solo RPG and you want to try this, I strongly recommend looking for a good OSR game out there. One of them that will come to mind that I will suggest that is very reasonably priced and has a lot of supplements for it and is really easy to run, and you will find hours of enjoyment. That is Basic Fantasy. And as I move forward and with these videos on this channel, hoping to gain traction, get more subscribers, and more people engaged, we will get into Basic Fantasy among other RPG systems out there that you can see behind me. I love RPGs, and they are by far the one, I could say, source of entertainment for me that I spend more time on than I would even sitting and watching a movie. Why? Because it is a creative outlet. Unlike the day and age in which we live, where we are over inundated with information and all kinds of distractions, it is the one thing we still have that is here now, physically in front of us, that we can sit down, take a breath, engage with, and it's very rewarding when we do finish that scenario and or campaign setting, because you have gone through that story and experienced it yourself, and it always gets you excited and ready for the next campaign. Okay, my friends, with that being said, I am going to finally round this video out. That's where it's going to be. And once again, which way would you go? Let me know. Drop me the comment in the comment box below. Let me know. When I get enough comments, we're going to tally them up, and then we're going to make a decision and see which way we go further into this dungeon. But until then, this is Melicor signing off. Happy Gaming Friday, and until the next time, may all your 20s roll 20 and true. This is Melicor signing off. Have a great weekend, guys.